Hello, so creative, it's Faustina here. Welcome to another interesting tutorial. On today's tutorial we are going to learn how I achieve this overlapping skate with that fullness gather that is giving this achalugo vibe using just 30 yards of 2 nets. So let's get straight into it. I've already uploaded how I cut and drafted the corset part, which is the upper part. So today's episode is the down part, so let's focus on the down part. Like I said earlier, we made use of 30 yards of 2 nets. So we are going to go ahead and start drafting at the basic skate, which we are going to use for the overlapping of the skate. So from my starting line, I'm coming down by 10 inches for my hip line into several places to get my straight line. Learn how to measure your client's hip line, which is the waist to the fuller part of the hip. After getting my waist and my hip line, the next thing I'm going to mark out is the length of my skate. So remember, it's a gown, so I minus the upper part of the gown and the remaining value will serve as the length of my skate. And I went ahead to add 1 inch hemming allowance at the down part, and that is it for the skate. The skate is a very short skate. I proceeded in marking my waist divided by 4 value and my hip divided by 4 value, and I went ahead to rule the line all over to my waistline. While on our skate hem part, we are going to just minus half inches. Remember, if you want to pencil your skate, you are going to minus 1.5, but because it's a very short skate, there is no need of minusing 1.5 because it's going to be tight, because it's very short. It's even very close to the hip, so the best thing to minus to give your skate pencil effect is half if it's a very short skate. So I went ahead to also input my dart line and my dart intake, and that is it for the short skate. I'm going ahead to go ahead and cut it out. Remember, I drafted this short skate on fold. I wanted to get the full pattern of the skate because it's an overlapping skate. So I went ahead to retrace what I cut out so that the skate will be 2. Is an overlapping skate, so you have to cut it into 2 in order to get the remaining part of your skate when you cut out the part that will serve as an overlapping part. So when I open it up, I will start marking out my overlapping shape. So now you determine how curvy you want your overlapping to be. From the part that I want the overlapping to be, from my waist I came down by 4 inches, and from the dart line I came up from the hem part of the skate by 2 inches, which I put an asterisk sign to meet that the 4 inches that I came down from the waistline. And this is how I want my curviness to be. So I'm going to go ahead and rule it all over to the hem part of my skate, and that is it for the curvy part of the skate. I went ahead to cut it out, and after cutting it, I brought the second pattern we drafted. Also, like I said, we have 2 patterns already, and I place it on top of the other one, and I went ahead to indicate the dart line. And from the hem part as well, I came up by 2 inches and I trace it in to the other side of our skate line. And this is how I was able to achieve the overlapping skate. You can see that it's very simple. The next thing I did was to trace the dart line all over to get a straight line, and I'm going to cut through what I just drew now, and that will serve as the completion of the overlapping skates. So this is how you achieve your overlapping skate of any type of overlapping skates that you want. Just know the type of curviness that you want to add it, and you cut your pattern into 2 so that you have the one that is going to complete it after you must have cut out the part that you want to curve. And I went ahead to close our dart because we won't be needing that on our pattern. So after closing our dart, we have to use our masking tape to keep it in place. and we repeat the same thing on the other side of the dart, and this is how our pattern is looking. So when you do all these things, this is how your pattern is going to look. You see how beautiful it's looking. So let's go and draft the back. The front is already ready. So after getting my starting line, from my starting line, I'm also going to come down by 10 inches into several places to get my hip line like we did to the front, and I'm going to also reel it out. And I'm also going to mark out the length of our skirts, our short skirts. Like I said earlier, is a gown, so when you minus from your shoulder to your waist, the remaining value you have is going to serve as the length of your skirt or gown. So after getting the length, I'm going to go in from the zipper side by 1 inch, and I'm going to go ahead and roll it all over to my hip line. This is called center back hip contouring, and from that 1 inch I'm going to impute my waist divide by 4 plus 1 inch that intake, and on the hip line I'm going to impute my hip divide by 4, and I'm going to roll it all over to my waistline. And on the hem part of our skirt, I'm going to come in by half an inch on the zipper side, which is the center back of our skirt, and on this other side as well I'm going to come in by half an inch as well, and I'm going to go ahead and taper it all over to my hip line. If you did not understand this drafting of the back properly, you can go ahead and watch my skirt pattern where I explain details on how you can get your perfect back skirt and front skirt without adding that, and it will still come out so perfect. We are done drafting the back, and I went ahead to cut it out. So watch me closely and see how I cut out our drafted pattern. So we cut directly on the marker we marked. So this center back, we are going to add zipper allowance on it, and I went ahead to close our dart like we did to the front. We don't need that on our pattern, and that is it for the back. The back is ready and the front is ready. So these two patterns now, we are going to go ahead and transfer them to fabric. So I've gone ahead to transfer them to fabric. I added half inches on the upper part, which is the waist. The hem part I added half inch, while the side I added 1 inch, and I went ahead to unpin the pattern like we did to the front. We laminated the upper parts with 2 pieces of our 2 nets, and we are repeating the same thing on this down part. We are going to laminate it with these 2 pieces of 2 nets. I have already added the first one, and I'm cutting out the second one, and I'm going to go ahead and pin it in. I also went ahead to cut the lining of this down part as well. So I'm trying to pin it so that the 2 nets will not be shaking when I want to go and sew on my sewing machine. I cut out the line in the SI shape of our working fabric, and the next thing I did is to reduce the length of the lining by half an inch, because we want to use the lining to tuck in our main working fabric by the hem part. So this is how you achieve that look. Your lining must be shorter than your main fabric by half an inch. You can see from the video. So the first thing I'm basically going to do now is to bring down the lining to my hem part, and I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and run half inches on that hem part and come back and show you what to do next. So I've gone ahead to sew it, and this is what it's looking like. The next thing I'm going to do now is to give it a notch. After giving it a notch, I'm going to trim it a little. After trimming it, the next thing we are going to do now is to sew the side of our skirt. So we are going to drag the lining up and go and run a stitch by the side. So I'm trying to unpin it. After unpinning it, we drag it up and go and sew the side by half an inch as well, the 2 sides of the skirt. You can see me dragging it up, so make sure you drag your lining up and go and sew it. So I've gone ahead to sew the side. You can see how it's looking. So I went ahead to trim out the excess I incurred while sewing the side, and the next thing we are going to do now is to turn it to the right side. From the waistline, we did not sew the waistline. We are going to now turn it to the right side and move over to my ironing table to go and iron press everything and come back and show you what to do next. And for the part that we complete our overlapping skirts, which is this part now, we are going to repeat the same process we did on this other part. We are going to repeat it on this other part, and I'll go and do it and come back and show you. For the back as well, we are going to also repeat the same thing we did for the front. Unpin our patterns and also layer our two nets on it. This is our boat back, and we are going to layer our double two nets on top of it like we did to the front. So I'm going to layer two of them. Remember to add your zipper allowance at your back, because we are going to add zipper allowance at that back side. So after layering the two nets, I went ahead to pin it down, and I've also gone ahead to cut out the lining like we did to the front, and the lining is also ½ inch shorter than our main fabric. I like working with my pin a lot because it helped me to keep all my pattern in place. So after pinning the two nets so that it won't be shaking when I want to go and sew it, the next thing we are going to introduce now is our lining. The lining we are going to use to turn both the hem part and the side of the back. You can see from the video that the lining is ½ inch shorter than our main fabric. So I'm also going to sew the hem part first before we sew the sides. So I've gone ahead to use the lining to turn everything like we did to the front, and we open it up from the waistline. I also went ahead to go and iron press it on my ironing table, and the next thing I'm going to do now is to infuse our zip. So when you match the two zipper sides together, the next thing you're going to mark out is how long you want your zip to be. So from my waist, I used to come down by 10 inches, which is 1 inch below my hip line. And when I mark it, I'm going to now sew the remaining rest of the parts. This part that is open is where we are going to infuse our zip. So I'll go over to my sewing machine and go and infuse our zip and come and show you the outcome. And this is the front part of our clothes, and this is the back. We have already infused our zip. The next thing now is to mark out our body measurements, the hip line and the waistline. So this is how you input your body measurement. From one end, you mark out your hip measurement, your hip measurement divided by 2, you mark it out. The remaining allowance, you're going to divide it into 2 equal halves. You place one here and also place one on the other side of your working fabric. So I've gone ahead to sew it down, and this is how pretty it's looking. And the next thing I do whenever I finish joining my clothes is to cross check my measurements to check if I actually sewed on what I marked on, so that when my clients come for fitting, we don't go back and forth in doing reshaping and shaping back again. So what I'm going to do now is to unpin the overlapping part, because we are going to start gathering our net. So I'm going to unpin that overlapping part. We are going to start gathering from this curvy part, overlapping curvy part. We are going to start gathering from it, and we are going to gather from that curvy part all over to the other overlapping parts. So this is how our gathering is going to be. So this is how I gather my stuff. I gather with my hands, small evenly. I've gotten used to it, so I don't know for you, but then gather evenly, small until you exhaust the yards of your two nets. So this is how my gather is looking. Haha, you see how pretty it's looking? Yeah, like I said earlier, from one side of the overlapping, I gathered all over to the other side, and that opening is going to serve as the opening where our client is going to bring out her leg like you saw on the video. And this is how I achieved the down part of that beautiful gown. So if you have watched this part, thanks for watching. You can see how pretty this thing is looking. Yeah, Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and also press the notification bell if you have not done it. If you achieve or get any value from this our video, please don't forget to subscribe and like and also comment for us. And see you in my next one. Bye bye my lovers.